Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. If you haven't already, please be sure to check out our website, countrymusicmademe.com. There you can listen to all of our episodes and also sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive content and also stay up to date on our upcoming guests. Just head over to countrymusicmademe.com and hit that subscribe button. You can also find us on any streaming platform. So if streaming is your thing, just head over to your favorite, search Country Music Made Me, and give us a follow there as well. On today's episode, we are excited to welcome Maggie Baugh. Now, she, at 22 years old, has been writing and recording music for close to 10 years. She moved to Nashville straight out of high school in 2018 and has been working hard to make a name for herself in the industry ever since. So please enjoy our conversation with Maggie Baugh. I want to go back all the way to being 2 or 3, sitting there watching the Disney Channel and Little Einsteins and classical music really resonating with you at that point. Now, I wanted to ask you, apart from maybe stories that you've been told about that time from your parents, is there one memory that is very vivid for you that you remember from being 2, 3, 4, 5 when music really hit for you?
I do. So if you're not familiar, are you familiar with Little Einstein?
I'm not, no.
So Little Einsteins is like 3 or 4 little kids, but it's a cartoon show. Little kids running around in a rocket ship, going to like different parts of the world on different adventures and like solving crimes, solving mysteries. But they use classical music to solve it. So it's so funny to say it out loud. But like, there's one vivid memory to answer your question. There's one vivid memory I have of them going on this adventure. They were going to Egypt and they were trying to open a pyramid to find the hieroglyphics to get the hidden treasure and like the mummy too. And so they used classical music, obviously, because classical music is like for the cognitive brain, like to help develop like certain artistic brain function in little kids, which is why like a lot of pregnant women wear like headphones over their belly and like listen to classical music. So it's like scientifically proven to have like an actual purpose. So they incorporated it into Little Einsteins. And I remember watching them going to Egypt, opening the tomb, and they were playing the song Hungarian Dance Number 5. And so that was the moment that I literally was like, oh my gosh, like I want to play that song, because it was like a magical little violin dancing around, like opening a tomb. I was like, I want to open like pyramids with my violin. Like, so anyway, I remember it was Hungarian Dance Number 5. My parents still saved the DVD from that exact like episode, because they knew that was the exact time that like I asked for a violin. So I asked when I was 2, and a little 2-year-old with a fiddle running around. My parents thought I was nuts. So I asked again when I was 6, and my preschool was giving violin lessons. So they finally let me enroll.
Okay. And now your parents, I haven't heard much about them. While I was researching, they don't come up a lot. The only thing I really heard you talk about was the fact that I think your dad is from Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
And so talk about their background and who they are as people and how they've inspired this journey for you.
My parents are the most supportive human beings I have ever met. You know, like you said, my dad is from Lubbock, Texas. So that's kind of how country music fell into my lap. Right. My mom is a stay-at-home mom. My brothers I have 2 younger brothers. They're 19 and 16, just turned 16. Oh my gosh. And they're both taller than me. They're like 6'3". It's ridiculous. But they're the most supportive humans in the world. You know, my parents, they drove me around to all of my gigs in South Florida. They were there driving with me 14 hours to Nashville. We rented, or they bought an RV, a giant 35-foot like Class A motorhome it was 2 dogs, 2 brothers, me, and my parents. So 5 people and 2 dogs, and 35 square feet, driving every summer to Nashville so then I could write music. So we would stay at Nashville Shores Water Park right on Percy Priest. My brothers would go and hang out at the water park. I was like 15 at the time, so my brother had to be 9 and 12. So a water park, they were just like living their best life. And so we would stay at the camper over there at Nashville Shores Water Park every summer since I was 15 years old, so then I could write music. And so my first record was when I was 13. I had another one come out when I was 15, and I had Catch Me come out when I was 17. Fire Me Up came out when I was 19, and now Think About Me came out last year. And so I would say my parents are the most supportive, incredible human beings. Like, I definitely would not have been able to play all the shows that I did if they weren't driving me hours to play them.
That is amazing. And now you talk about being inspired by classical music, and then at 13, 15, switching over to country. So let's talk about that journey and that switch. Now,
Yeah.
talk about the middle school period. You're attending a musical school, studying classical music, and talk about that time and sort of the bullying that ensued and how that drove you to songwriting and to country music.
Yeah. So I had to audition for a middle school. It was Bach Middle School of the Arts down in West Palm Beach, Florida. And so I auditioned to get in. It was like such a hard school to get into at the time. And I auditioned for intermediate strings. So that meant that I would have an orchestra class and music theory classes every other day. And so because I was already in and out of orchestra camps, and I've been playing violin since I was 6, I was like, oh my gosh, like classical music will just be my journey, and it'll be Dreyfus and the High School of the Arts, and it will be Julliard eventually. Like, that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
It was right around 7th grade. It was crazy because we just got back from playing Carnegie Hall, which is one of the most well-renowned music venues ever. And so I auditioned to be in advanced strings 7th grade because I thought I was like, a little too cool for school in 6th grade. So I was like, I'm going to be advanced strings. And so I got in, and then our whole orchestra auditioned to play at Carnegie Hall, and we made it.
Oh,
and
wow.
So literally I was like, oh my God, it's 7th grade. I'm playing freaking Carnegie Hall. Like, this is going to be my path. And right when I got back from the trip is when it kind of all started happening. It was right halfway through 7th grade, and I started getting bullied at school. I was very fortunate that it wasn't physical bullying. Obviously, I'm not downplaying or justifying how it went down, but I never had that physical. It was just verbal abuse. It was right when social media was starting to kick off. It was like when Kik was a big thing, like that app messenger. It was right when Snapchat came out. Everything disappeared. And so I was getting bullied a lot verbally in the stairwell after lunch. So my grades started slipping for all my classes after that. And it was just text messages after text messages. And people would send me songs, like telling me like when Taylor Swift's song Mean came out, like they would send that to me and be like, kids are mean. Okay. Point is, the kids are mean.
Yeah.
So because I was already around music, and, I was engulfed in it because I was at a school for music, so I was already around it. I started messing around with garage bands, and I started like putting little beats together, and I started writing my feelings down and kind of using poetry a little bit as like an outlet just to write things down, because there's really the school wasn't supportive of it at all. They were like, it's girl drama, it's just kids being kids. And like, no, it was hardcore verbal abusive bullying, and the school wasn't doing anything about it. And so my parents were really supportive, but honestly, like when you're 11 years old, the last person on the planet you want to talk to is your parents. So I was just writing things down, and I ended up writing like my first song on GarageBand. And I think I showed it to my violin teacher because I was so proud of it. And that's, as the bullying started progressively getting worse, I just kept writing more. And I found my cousin's guitar lying around, and she taught me like 1 or 2 chords, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep writing. And music, I kind of downplay it a little bit just because I'm such like a positive human, such a light human now. But honestly, like I was on the brink of suicide back then. And so It's just so crazy to think that like music like literally saved me. And I've had a couple, not as dark moments lately, but it's kind of like over COVID, it was kind of just like, man, I'm not allowed to do the one thing that I want to do. And it was like, who am I? You know what I mean? But it was always music that I got drawn back to, always writing and playing guitar that always saved me. And so I'm just really, really grateful for that experience, because I wouldn't be who I am today. And so music literally saved my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And so when did you sort of make the switch to country music and being a country artist?
Yeah, so 7th grade was right when I started getting bullied. And so that was when I started writing my feelings down. I started looping things on GarageBand. My dad is from Texas, so it was always classical music or country music in my house. And so as I started writing my feelings down and kind of just exploring with songwriting, because country music was already around me, it was kind of like that was what I heard. So it's kind of like acoustic guitar. So that's what I'll start with. You know what I mean? It was just telling stories and like writing your experiences. And then that school progressively just did not help. And so right as 7th grade ended, summer of going into 8th grade, I decided to switch and go to public school. So it was just like the local school next to my house, way closer. No violin, orchestra, anything. It was just regular public school. And so that's when I wrote my first song that's out. It's called Middle School. And it was kind of like about middle school being really, really hard, but knowing that it's going to get better and high school will be fine. And that's when I recorded my first music video, was at my 8th grade school. We went in there and took over, and we like did like a music video in like the hallways and stuff like that. And so I guess like after writing it and doing music videos and playing little songwriter festivals around South Florida, I think that's kind of when I morphed into it and being like, you know, people are showing up. I'm starting to get a little bit of a fan base. Right when Facebook came out, I wasn't even old enough to be on Facebook at the time. My mom had to like pretend it was me. And then just progressively, like, festival season is all year round in South Florida. So there was little festivals here and there. I started playing like an 8-hour tent, like I'd play an hour off and an hour on all day, cover songs, me in my little dresses. God, if you looked up some of those photos on Google, I swear to God, you would never speak to me again. But it was like that. It was like me just like wanting to just speak out because I went through such a tough time. And so I just wanted to be that person that somebody had, versus I didn't really have anybody. Like all my friends ditched me at the time. A lot of them didn't want to speak up. And I was the one that actually wanted to speak up and tattle on all of them, regardless of the consequences. So I guess that's why I really started becoming an artist, because I was like, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to be like, music saves me. Music should save you as well. Like if you're ever going through anything, like no bad vibes. So I guess that's kind of when I started my musical journey into becoming an artist, was playing around South Florida, and then people really believing me and taking me under their wing, from playing an 8-hour shift down in a festival when I was like 13 years old, like making hundreds of dollars like in tips because people thought I was cute, to then getting paid to play on the main stage, opening up for artists, to then eventually being the direct support slot, to then headlining the festivals myself. So it's been such a wild journey.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that journey, because while you were doing the South Florida thing before moving to Nashville, when you were sort of 15, 16, 17, you were opening for some big names. And so how did that all come about? Was it just a matter of meeting people as you grew and as you booked different shows?
So, you know, it's so funny. I never really used to believe in right place, right time, because I was like, there's no way the universe is like, that person's going to be there while that person's there, and then they're going to become best friends. Like, I never believed in that until my favorite story was when I was 17 years old. I was at the Roundup in Davie, which is like a little country bar. It was my first time headlining my own show in South Florida. It was always me either opening up for somebody or just on the bill, but it was my first time full band being a headliner. I worked really hard on marketing it. There was a lot of people there, and it was the worst show I ever played in my entire life.
Oh, really?
The sound guy, God bless him, I don't know what was going on. It was either the chords or the soundboard kept blowing up, but literally we stopped and we started, and we had to stop and we started, to the point where it was like an hour already into my show. I didn't even play a single song. And I was like, we're just going to do it acoustically. So me and my band, we did one song acoustically. And I will never forget, the point of the story, I will never forget, is that Brian O'Connell, the head of Live Nation, was there that day. He was in town for Tortuga, and he comes walking over to me and hands me a piece of paper that says, do you and your band want to play Tortuga on Sunday? And I will never forget that moment, because the worst show I've ever played in my life, where everything could have gone wrong, Brian O'Connell from Live Nation was sitting in the audience and personally invited me to play the main stage at Tortuga, where I opened up for, I was on the same bill as Jordan Davis, Snoop Dogg, Eric Church, like the biggest South Florida festival in the world. Like, of all the state, like, and I got asked to play. And so that was like the right time, right person, right moment. And I think that's my favorite story of all time.
Wow. And now, as far as Nashville goes, you talked about every summer traveling down there to songwrite and to sort of build up. And so, heading out of high school, did you know that Nashville was where you were going to be? And along that journey, how supportive were your parents in you going to Nashville?
My parents were incredibly supportive. Like I said, every summer I just kept coming to Nashville. So I already had connections. I already had people that I was writing with when I moved here. So it was really easy for me to kind of just adapt into it. Of course, for personal reasons, it was hard. I was 18 years old. I moved away from my parents for the first time, but like I always had something to do because I had such a great supportive writing group here. And senior year, because so South Florida, the trip from South Florida is 14 hours. And so for senior year, I was coming to Nashville once a month. I already had an apartment here. We wanted to make the transition way easier instead of me like renting a big, huge truck from South Florida to like Nashville. We had a band van at the time. So every single time I'd come to Nashville once a month, we would fill it with stuff. And so I just fill my apartment like once a month. So then all I had to do was one carload left when I moved here.
And so, when you made the official move, you mentioned you knew people there already, but you
Yeah.
are a very bubbly, outgoing person. Now, for the first time in your life, being on your own, living on your own, when you moved, was it a difficult transition in just being comfortable with being alone and being alone with your thoughts?
For sure. You know, Nashville is such a 21 and up town. So when I moved here at 18, it was kind of hard because I was like, well, man, I can't really go out anywhere. There was definitely a few bars that like let me in to come listen to music, which I'm not allowed to say, but whatever. But they definitely let me in to come listen to music because they knew that like that wasn't my vibe. And so they just wanted to really support me. And then I started getting in with them and they were like, okay, well, I'll let you play. Like, so I got to play a lot, like songwriter rounds. I was on the road quite a bit actually when I moved here. A lot of people didn't even realize that I moved here because I was gone every weekend performing on the road. But I was really excited because I always had something going on and I've been very, very blessed with that. You know, when I moved to town, I was in the studio the first week I moved here. I was recording Fire Me Up. I recorded like a little EP for my fans called I Did It for the Fans. And 4 of those songs never got released, but I played them live. But one
Oh,
of them got
okay.
released and it was Fire Me Up. So I always had something going on. And, you know, my fan base is the most supportive fan base in the entire world. So I never really felt alone, even though kind of physically I was. But I don't know. I feel like I've just been really lucky to get engulfed in the music scene here in Nashville.
Right. And now your album Catch Me in early 2017 that you released, I heard you talk about you had signed your publishing deal just before that. And the summer going into that record is when you really started to do a lot of writing. I think I saw you mentioned you wrote like 45 songs that summer heading into the release of that album. And so talk
Yeah.
about that summer and what it meant for your songwriting and how much you developed heading into that album, Catch Me.
You know, heading into Catch Me, I signed a deal when I was 16. It was an independent deal. You know, it was really a really good learning lesson. Now, when I turned 18, the label folded and I'm completely independent now. No management, no publishing, no label, no nothing. It's just me. And I have a PR
Right.
team, amazing PR team. Love my girls that set this up. But you know what? Like, it's really funny because like I choose not to talk about it just because I don't want people thinking that I have a deal when I'm completely independent right now. But
Right.
it was a huge part of my life, you know, being 16 years old, walking the red carpet at Radio Disney Country Music Awards, having a label behind me, you know, it was a really good learning experience. You know, I don't really wish that on any 16-year-old to like leave high school. I graduated high school completely on track with all of my friends because I wanted to. But there's a lot of people who sign deals when they're really young and kind of miss out on those experiences. But I wouldn't take back any single day that I had because I had Catch Me. And so Catch Me was a huge learning experience. I feel very grateful that I did that when I was so young because I learned what a record label should and shouldn't do. I learned what management should and shouldn't do. Like I learned a lot of the business so young. And I feel like that has just built me into being like the little business savvy kind of girl I am now because I've been through the horror stories that you hear girls going through right now and
Right.
I'm so grateful for it. of course, now being completely independent and doing everything on my own, I got high expectations now. But but honestly, Catch Me was such like a blessing and a curse. Obviously that was a really hard thing to go through when I was so young, but I got Catch Me. I got the experiences of it. I got my name out there. I built fans. I got to walk the red carpet. I was on CMT. And so, it was such a learning experience, and I'm so grateful that I did it.
And as an independent artist now, you are very focused on performing, or at least before 2020, you were very focused on performing, and we're performing a lot. And so as an independent artist who's doing everything, is it just a matter of grinding and just getting out there as much as you can and playing as much as you can?
It really is, but it's always being true to yourself. Over the years, I've had a lot of people jump on board and try to tell me like who I am and help me grow, but it hasn't always been me. And so I'm really grateful that this is 2021 was the first year completely management free and completely on my own, where I finally got to just make mistakes. I got to like slack off a little bit and realize you have to be on top of your stuff. And so I feel like that year, 2021, was the best year of my entire life, but I also got to grow as a human. I made mistakes. I made a lot of friendships. I got a lot of advice. I asked a ton of questions. And so, it does get very overwhelming sometimes, but what I've learned is that like no one is going to work harder than you, and no one is going to do it right. And you're the only person that is going to do it right. No one else is going to do it as right as you are, is what I meant. And so, like, it's just, if you're an artist and you know what you want, like, no one can get inside your brain. And I have such an artsy brain that like me trying to explain to somebody what I want versus me just doing it. It's like with graphic design, for example, that's a hidden talent a lot of people don't know I have. So all of those like Maggie Baugh and friend posters that you see, all of my single covers, like I do that. I do my own graphic design. And so I learned it in high school. It was just like a little trait that I had. I just did my Instagram story stuff, like very little mini school things. And then it wasn't until I paid someone like so much money to do something, and I was like, that's really bad. Can we like kind of talk about it? And he was like, well, I can't really get inside your brain. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. So I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And so I learned how to do Photoshop. So now I can just sit there and do it. And so I guess I don't really know where I went with that. I kind of ramble on because I like talking to you, Brandon.
It's all good. I enjoy it as well. And so this journey in 2020, now you've come out of 2020, I think from what I saw in my research, as it was a positive year of growth. But when 2020 first hit, you'd only been in town for 2 years. You're this young musician who really has based herself on the performance and performing as much as she can and getting herself out there. That all of a sudden goes away. So in those first few months of 2020, was there any doubt that crept in of like, this is it? I should just move home. What am I going to do?
Yeah. When COVID hit, I was on the road so much. And so I am such a people person. Like, I love playing on stage, not for the lights and the glitzy glamour, big stage part of it, but just because I love people and I love letting people escape from whatever has going on in their life for 2 hours. I love being that scapegoat for people. Right. And so I really love it when people relate to me and relate to my songs and, just the heartwarming stories of it. So when I didn't have that anymore, it was one of the toughest, hardest things I ever came to terms with, because I was always practicing for a show. I never wrote music just to write music. I always wrote music for the show. And so I had a lot of doubts in my mind. I never went home, which was a curse and a blessing. I missed my family so much, but I knew that like, if I wasn't here, then I probably would have succumbed to giving up, and I wasn't about to just walk home with my tail between my legs.
Right. Yeah.
And so I stayed here. I had friends that we quarantined together, but I really, really just needed that time just to put music away. And I know it sounds so crazy because music has always been my life, being an artist or being a violinist, like it's always been music. And so it was really scary for me just to put my guitar in the case for like 3 months and be like, I'm not playing for anyone. I'm not going on tour. Like, there's no reason for me to do this then. I was like, then I'll just take vacay, which was a much needed mental vacation.
Right.
But I started listening to John Mayer, and I started really diving into him, and I started like researching some of his podcasts and interviews. And I really resonated with him because he not told me, like, we're not BFFs. I heard him on a podcast say that he really hated playing songwriter rounds because he felt like everyone else just used the guitar as a prop. They never really used it as an instrument or part of the song, which is so interesting because now he's writing music, or back then he wrote music like Why Georgia, Neon. Like, those songs would not be what they are without those amazing guitar parts, like
Right.
Stop This Train. The reason you know that song is because of like the beginning intro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was just so intrigued by that. I was like, wow, like I never really thought of it like that. And so I'll never forget, after researching all about John Mayer, I picked up my guitar and I started messing around with like alternate tunings. I started really getting better at electric guitar. You know, I always played electric guitar. I always played fiddle. I always played all these instruments, but I don't really think I ever spent the time to like really practice just to practice until my fingers bled. And so Think About Me was a product of listening to John Mayer a whole bunch. You know, Think About Me, a lot of people don't know. It's in an alternate tuning. It's called Daddy Ad, but I play it on a baritone that's tuned in B flat. And so it's like
Okay.
down, it's like B, F, C sharp, F, D, F. It's it's kind of weird, but it's one of those things where it was like Think About Me wouldn't be the song that it is without that intricate guitar part. And so having that just new creative door open for me was such an incredible thing that I needed, that it finally just let me be okay playing guitar to my goldfish, playing guitar to my four walls of my room, playing guitar to like my couch. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where it was like I needed that so bad, and I needed to fall back in love with music again, which I guess is the biggest curse and blessing of 2020 for me. 2020 was because I fell out of love with music, but my love and respect for the actual fundamentals of music came back.
Right. And what about the songwriting side? Because Think About Me, you've mentioned, is digging much deeper into the personal realm of your
Yeah.
soul. And so you talked about like high school, like when you first started writing music, it came from a very personal place of being bullied. And now with this song, you're sort of digging back in. So between that and over the years, did you find yourself, like you say, writing for the performance and not digging as deep into the personal material?
Oh, for sure. You know, when I wrote Fire Me Up, I wrote that there's this one breakdown chorus where like the drums have like this big moment, and I was like, oh my god, we need to do that because on stage that would look really cool. Or it's like, how would the intro get a little elongated, or how can we introduce the musicians in between it? So I was using the songs as more of like a performance piece, not really,
Right.
does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
I was using it as like to show off and make a show.
Right.
You can't make a show without songs. um, COVID hit and let me really dig deep into what I want to say. And so it's so funny because people are always like, Maggie, the only thing that you have out on Spotify now are slow songs, but you're such like a bubbly human. And I was like, yeah, I did that on purpose, because growing up after a show, the compliments were always, I love your fiddle playing. You have such a great energy. I love your personality. You really know how to captivate a crowd, or you're super entertaining. And it was never my voice or my music that people really resonated with. And
Okay.
so 2021, my goal was to show with Think About Me. It was so scary putting that out there because I was like, this is so different. I don't know if people are going to like it. It's slower. Like, this is something no one would have expected me to do. But I did that on purpose because I wanted people to take me seriously as an artist and as a songwriter, and somebody who has a soul, who can still go up there and be a bubbly personality running around playing 18 instruments. But I really wanted people to also at the end of my show be like, wow, that one song really just resonated with me, or be like, damn, like your voice on that one song was pretty incredible. And so that was the goal of 2021. And so I'm just insanely grateful with the response to Think About Me. You know, my debut single is now at 1.4 million streams on Spotify. Never in a
Yeah.
million years did I think that would happen. Maybe 5 streams, me, my mom, my dad, my brother. But like 1.4, that's like so incredible.
Yeah, I saw that after you released Think About Me, so June of 2021, you had 648 monthly listeners on Spotify, I believe. And then 3 months later, in September of 2021, you had shot up to 100,000 listeners. How satisfying was that to release this song that I imagine there was anxiety tied to it because it is something new. It is bearing your soul. And so how satisfying is that to see the number of plays and the number of followers, the number of fans that have showed up for it?
Honestly, I could not have done it without the love from Spotify. I always tell this story. It was like Spotify had no idea who I was. And when did I release the song? June 18th? June 17th? No, I would say June 10th. June 10th, Spotify had no idea who I was. And it was so insane because I was just like, you know what? No one's going to listen to this music unless I do something about it. And so I found a person at Spotify's email from the very dark stalking web, reached out to them and was like, you have no idea who I am, but I'm releasing a song on my own independently for the first time. Like, I would just love some advice. Like, if you have any advice, let me know. Like, I'm all ears. She responded on Friday within 2 hours and was like, oh my God, I'm a sucker for a sad song. I love this. If you ever need anything at Spotify, let us know. And so I will never forget that email because 9 playlists with 2 cover spots and a #1 song on a chart on Spotify later, like 2021, like I owe it all to Spotify. Like I just hear stories about just putting a song out and getting no response. And that was like my biggest fear as an artist, is putting your heart out there. Like in a relationship, you put your heart out there, you tell someone you love them, and then they just deny you. Like, biggest fear. And I just feel so grateful and so lucky because that doesn't happen. And I owe my year to Spotify. And so I'm really excited to be releasing music this year. I listened to one of the final mixes of my new song last night. And it just makes me have that feeling all over again of like anxiety of like, oh my gosh, like I'm putting out another new song, a new baby. Like, I don't really know how I feel. And so I'm just hoping that it's an upbeat song. Finally, I got over my sad girl phase, right. But I'm hoping that it resonates with people just like it did with Think About Me.
That's awesome. And in the last month, you've had on TikTok, Finish the Lick. And that has also blown things up because a month ago, you had 24,000 followers. And now, a month later, you have over 100,000 followers on TikTok. So in this new age of music, where social media does mean quite a lot, what does that mean for you to be able to do something like that on the platform?
Oh my gosh. So I feel like it's funny. I was a little late to the TikTok game, better late than never. Yep. But I was a little late because I'm such a musician. I resonate better on a stage, in person, like in being one-on-one with the person, like in the same room, in the same vicinity, definitely not 6 feet apart. That's how I resonate with people. And so when people were asked to like be online and be like a social present, like, yes, I'm talking to you on Zoom, which is great, but it's like talking to yourself in a phone camera when there's no one else watching, like, is so awkward. Yeah. And I was like, how can I show my bubbly personality on social media where, one, it comes off completely authentic, it doesn't look fake, and it makes me feel good about myself to be like, okay, you know what, I'm proud of myself for putting that out there. And so I really just feel like I never found my thing on TikTok. I don't really drink coffee. You're lucky if my hair is brushed. Like, I don't do a get ready with me. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like, I just really wanted to find something that was true to me. And I'm really happy that I waited, because I do believe that everything happens for a reason. But it happened in the most random, like completely out of the blue way. Like, I was just hanging out in my room, playing guitar, learning a riff, and I was like, oh my God, it'd be really cool if like someone asked me just off the cuff, be like, hey Maggie, play that riff and see if I can do it. And I ran over to my neighbor's house, banged on her door. She thought that there was like a fire or something. And I walked in and I was like, I need you to help me create this new series. I was like, please just record like 4 videos with me. If it doesn't work, cool. But like, if it does, like, I think that this is really unique and different. A lot of country artists are doing this thing called finish the lyric. And right. I've just seen so many people do that. And I was like, I'm kind of a rebel when it comes to that. I love doing things that people aren't doing. And so I did this thing called Finish the Lick, because I always wanted to showcase my musician side of me again, because like I said, over COVID and over 2021, I kind of put it away for a little bit to be taken seriously as an actual artist. And now that people have seen that side, it's time to bring back musician Maggie. And so I was like, I can play any lick on anything I want. And I think this could be really, really awesome. Anyway, fast forward 1 month later, we hit 100,000 followers, which 4 videos hitting over 1 million views later, like, I'm just shocked. Like, I think my first video I did was Devil Went Down to Georgia, and I think it got 15,000 views, which was enough for me. I was like, this is better than my 2,000 views I was getting before. Like, let's keep going.
Yeah.
And so I just played all the riffs that I already knew. I played, a few AC/DC songs. I played Sweet Home Alabama, just all the songs that like I already knew, because I was like, okay, we just need to make sure this like looks believable and like and it's just like its own thing. You know what I mean? I was so excited about it. I remember like calling my team and being like, guys, you'll never believe what just happened. Like, this is like at 15,000 views. Anyway, I just kept going with it. And then it kind of like opened new doors for me musically. Like, I grew up playing classical music. I grew up listening to country music. I didn't grow up listening to classic rock. So now people are commenting and I'm learning all this new music. Like, I didn't even hear Thunderstruck until 2 weeks ago when I learned the song.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like Highway to Hell, I already knew like some of that stuff, like, but it was one of those things where it was like, I'm having fun now because I'm learning so much more new music than what I would have known about a month ago. So not only did I found something on TikTok that makes me feel really unique and makes me feel good about it, it also is helping me a lot with like opening my musical doors. And so I'm really glad I waited, and I'm really glad that I finally found my thing. And I'm just so grateful because for somebody who never thought it would happen for her on TikTok, it is finally popping off, baby. Like,
that is amazing. And now I think I heard you talk about touring, and with everything starting to come back, you kind of mentioned you were going to let the big artists sort of have their turn first, and you weren't necessarily going to push right away. But what does it look like for you? You mentioned Third and Lindsay having a bit of a residency there, and are you going to be getting on the road, or are you just sort of playing the local Nashville stuff for now before you start really booking out?
you know what's so funny about this is like, it is such a catch-22. Like, I was on the road so much when I first moved here that no one really knew that I was in town, and there wasn't really an opportunity for people to come and see me play and really get a feel for who I am, because I wanted to be on the road so much, because I was like, that fills my soul.
Right.
But industry wise, people can't come to drive to like North Carolina to come see you play. So I think I'm going to keep going with the Third and Lindsay residency show. It's also a place for artists in town to be able to play. So not only am I giving myself an opportunity to play in town, I'm giving other artists an opportunity to play. And the club is just so excited about it. I remember watching Vince Gill play on that stage, and the fact that we're playing to like a semi half capacity crowd is just incredible. And so it's really, really fun. And especially it's so fun to be able to have a 2-hour show too, kind of like when you go on the road. For me, my shows were like 60 to 90 minutes long, me playing straight through. And so now that I get to like host and like and be a champion for other artists too, but also have a place for people to come and watch me, it's such a fun and awesome show. And so I guess to answer your question, throughout the year, I will have like a few pop-up shows here and there across the US. I think I'm playing in May in North Carolina. I think on the 28th. Don't hold me to it. Somewhere in North Carolina in May. But so here and there, I'll have a few shows. We're booking a little bit in the fall, but I really just love this residency show, and I'm really excited to see it pull off, because if we can have a sold out crowd in Nashville, that is the biggest accomplishment ever. Like, it's so damn hard to sell tickets in this town, and I'm just so grateful that people want to come and watch me tell terrible jokes and sing.
That's awesome. And you're gaining a fan base, obviously, but you also talk about bringing your friends out to the shows at Third and Lindsay, and you being able to set the lineup. And so aside from just building a fan base, how important is it to build those relationships within the industry as well, and just build yourself up and build almost a family around you within the industry?
Yeah, I think it's like, there's been so many horror stories of people in Nashville talking about how like Nashville is so cutthroat. There's only one spot. Yeah, you're right. There is only one spot. But at the same time, we also don't have to like eat each other up on the way up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of survival of the fittest, but we don't also have to tear each other to shreds while we're trying to get there. And so my favorite thing about Maggie Baugh and Friends is that we have artists of all different capacities, right? Like in the beginning of my shows, I give an artist who might not even have 2,000 followers on Instagram a chance to play a show that they would have never been able to get on their own. You know, it's my little piece of giving back, because I remember I used to knock down so many doors and venues asking to play 2 songs before they go on stage. So being able to reach out to artists like that, it just means so much to them. Like I literally grabbed coffee before this with a girl. Her name is Jordan Berry. She played 2 songs before I played. And she was like, I never would have been asked to play Third and Lindsley if you didn't ask me. And now she told me, she was like, it gave me the confidence to want to go out there and actually ask people to play instead of just getting the shows that people ask me to play. And for somebody like that, who is first starting out, to somebody who has hits, like Adam Sanders played our show. He's written hits for Dustin Lynch, for Cole Swindell. To want to come back and be that role model for artists like me is just so incredible. So, you know, on my next show, which I'm so excited about, the lineup is almost announced. So stoked. April 20th, the next show will have somebody who has had number ones, who's had success, to somebody who has 7 million followers on TikTok, to then somebody who is like me, who is just getting popped off on TikTok, to then somebody who might not have any following, but is super talented and should be recognized. So that's my favorite part about Maggie Baugh and Friends, is that we showcase all different calibers of people, all different calibers of music, and all different calibers of artists. And so that's my favorite part about Maggie Baugh and Friends.
That's awesome. We'll keep an eye on your socials for that lineup. And tell us about the new song and when we can expect it. You mentioned maybe it's more of a summer jam.
Yeah.
Are you do you have a release schedule for it?
You know, what's so funny is that I just found out that I was releasing this song probably about a month ago. I sent a demo of it to my team, and they were like, oh my God, you have to release this. So I sent the demo to a few different people. And then they were like, you have to release this. So on March 16th, which was my birthday bash, I said on stage, I was like, this is going to be my next single. The master isn't even done. We're not even done recording it, but I don't know when it's going to come out, but this is the song that will come out. And so it's so funny because I've had multiple interviews this week that I've literally been like, I have a new song coming out. I literally just got the master yesterday. So prior to that, I was like, the master is not even done. And I have no idea when it's going to come out, but it's going to come out, which is so unlike me because I'm normally a very planned human. And
Right.
I would have stayed quiet and been like, oh, I'm not announcing anything until like X date, where I can then drop it on my socials. And you know what I mean? So it's really funny now because I think I told them the title last time, but it's called Seeing Somebody. And so it is a summer jam. It's a very upbeat, fun song, roll the windows down. And I think that's exactly what I need this summer, is to like enjoy life and be like, you know what? Like, it's okay to write songs that are happy too, not all sad.
Thank you once again so much for listening, and thank you to Maggie for stopping by and sharing her story. Be sure to check out her newest singles, Think About Me and Drink Into the Broken Hearts, wherever you stream your music. Please also be sure to check out our website, countrymusicmademe.com. There you can listen to all of our episodes and also sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive content and also stay up to date on all of our upcoming guests. Just head over to countrymusicmademe.com and hit that subscribe button. You can also find us on any streaming platform, so if streaming is your thing, just head over to your favorite, search Country Music Made Me, and give us a follow there as well. Thanks once again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.